What do publishers look for in a book and what puts them off? Let's talk about how you can maximize your chances at getting published. Hi and welcome to another episode of From Amateur to Expert Daily. I'm Douglas Kruger, business author and professional speaker, and this series helps you to go from amateur to expert and become a top name in your industry. If you haven't already, please sign up and please hit the bell so that you get the alerts as to when each new video comes out. Let's talk about the world of books and publishing. One of the most powerful things you can do in order to position yourself as a top-level expert and a top-level icon is to write and publish a book. If you can go the commercial route, it's always the best way to go. It adds to your credibility, it opens doors with the media, and it takes care of the distribution, which is quite difficult if you are a self-published author. So let's talk about how you can approach publishers and what some of the mistakes are. I'm up to 7 business books with Penguin, and a while ago I had a business lunch with my editor and we sat down and discussed book number 8. And I took the opportunity to ask a couple of questions on your behalf and to say, what do publishers look for in a new author? What turns them on? What puts them off? What are some of the warning signals? And how do you know when you have discovered talent? And some of the answers were quite fascinating. Some were straightforward and some a little counterintuitive, and I'd like to share those with you. So let's start with something fairly obvious, and it is attention to detail. The editor mentioned to me that she can, after some 20 years experience, pick up a manuscript, look at page 1, and she will already know whether this book has a chance or whether it is out of the running. And that's a fascinating insight for us, because it means page 1 matters. What impressions are you creating on that page? And it divides into a couple of interesting areas. Let's start with the attention to detail aspect of that one. She points out that the way in which a manuscript is formatted and the way in which it is submitted is either a warning signal or it is a pass sign for an aspiring author. Generally speaking, most big publishers, including Penguin, will have all of the submission requirements on their website, so they are no state secret. Let's just take a simple example. Let's say, for instance, that on the website it says, don't tell us about the number of pages, tell us about the number of words. Pages can be formatted to all manner of different sizes, so saying it's 200 pages is irrelevant. We need to know what the word count is. Now along comes an author and submits their manuscript and they say, oh, it's 250 pages long. That tells the publisher a couple of interesting things right up front. Number one, it says this is an amateur who is unfamiliar with the lingo of the industry, a person who doesn't know how these things are discussed within the publishing world. Number two, and perhaps more damningly, it shows that this person has not gone onto the website, not found out what the submissions process is, or even worse if they had, that they cannot pay attention to detail. So it's a simple case of going and having a look at what they actually ask for. If, for instance, they say, send us a cover letter with a synopsis and 2 sample chapters, for heaven's sake, do that and don't do anything else. It is a warning signal to an editor when you fail to meet their preferred requirements. So that's the attention to detail. Now the next thing about this is about this first page test, which is of great interest to me, is that the editor points out that most authors are not able to get to the point quickly enough. And she says that is a major signal to a publisher and to an editor as to whether or not they're going to go ahead and consider your manuscript. She says most, perhaps 99% of new authors take way too long to get to the meat, the point, the issue, the proposal, the thing that their book is about. So let me give you a practical example of how this might work. My last book with Penguin was titled Poverty Proof: 50 Ways to Train Your Brain for Wealth. Now we sat and we had a meeting about a follow-up book which is tentatively titled Poverty Proof Your Business. Here's the thinking behind this. The first book makes the point that the wealthiest individuals run their own businesses. Now, that begs a number of questions, which are, for example, how do you start a business that doesn't fail? The stats are bad on this one. So how do you get past that barrier and make sure that your business survives the first 3 years? All right, so that lays the scene, the ideological scene for that particular book. Now, if I do it wrong, I will write a long encyclopedic tome in which I detail the history of businesses and I recap everything that's known about owning a business. If I do it right, page 1 will go like this. Becoming rich is about owning your own business, but owning your own business is dangerous. This is how many businesses fail within the first few years. What can you do differently to ensure your business doesn't fail and that you therefore become rich? That should be the first paragraph. And if I hit all of those notes in the first paragraph, I have gotten to the meat, to the juice, to the bone, right there in the opening ideas, in the opening pages. And that's what they're after. So she says you would not believe the degree to which good authors do that and bad authors fail to do that. And I thought that was a fascinating insight, and I just wanted to share that one with you. The second thing that was actually my idea, but she confirmed it, was the idea that you need to move a body of knowledge forward. So I've often spoken about this because this is my philosophy when I write books. I always say you can't just rehash everything that's known in that field or on that topic. You have to find a way to move the ball forward. And I ran that theory by her and she said, yes, absolutely, that is part of our thinking as well. You cannot simply have a derivative or a repetitive book. Now, when we hear that advice, it can at first sound a little daunting because how do you move a topic forward? Well, it turns out it's not as bad as what it sounds like. It doesn't mean that you have to reinvent the entire world that you're writing about. It can be as simple as looking at it from a different angle, or looking at it in the light of some new developments. It's just a subtle, mild excuse for moving the page forward a little bit. Let's take a practical example of that one. Say you're writing about the world of sales. You cannot possibly, at this stage in human history, write an entirely new, revolutionary book about sales. It has been studied to death. It's something that has been practiced and dissected over the course of a couple of centuries. What you can do, though, is you might say, here's why I disagree with the prevailing wisdom based on experience. How about a subtle re-angling this way? And that re-angling becomes your framework, it becomes your pitch, it becomes the heart and soul of your book. It's the reason for its existence. So, whatever it is that you're writing about, how can you bring something new, something fresh to the table, even if that just means disagreeing with the conventional accepted wisdom, or if it means another angle on it, or something subtly new, subtly different. Publishers are, subconsciously at least, looking for that. So, some of the things that will help you to get published and stop you getting disqualified. 1. Pay attention to detail. It really does matter. 2. Get to the point quickly. What does your book do? How swiftly can you get to that? And number 3, does the whole premise move the body of knowledge forward? Does it do something important, or can you frame it in a way that is novel, unique, or just plain entertaining? So those are some of the things I picked up with in my meeting with Penguin, and I thought they might be of use to you. If you are considering writing a book, I always like to share the following advice. Try to downsize how big a deal that is in your own mind. Don't think about writing a book one day. Think about writing a long essay and starting now. Try to talk in stories as much as you can. Try to write visually. The more you help your reader to see things and the more you paint it in metaphors and stories and picture examples, the more your writing comes alive. Good luck to you as you write your book and position yourself as an expert. If these videos are helping you, please do feel free to share them, and please come back tomorrow for more. Would you like some more? Here's a link to an hour-long video that I created for you on the ins and outs of writing and publishing your book. If you're not in my nation and you'd like to read one of my books, they're all available from Amazon as Kindle ebooks and on the Audible platform read by the author.